Hello again, and welcome back to my Lightning Law Moments series, where we learn law in a flash. Today, our goal is to apply what we learned about the elements of a crime to real-life settings. Now, if you haven't already, be sure to watch my previous video on the elements of a crime. You'll need that knowledge and understanding to apply to the scenarios we're going to talk about today. To make sure you don't miss important introductory videos like that one, make sure that you hit like and subscribe. The scenarios that we're going to analyze today all take place in a very, very familiar real-life setting to help you visualize and understand the legal concepts better. And yes, you guessed it, it's the subway. Now, we would all love for our subway rides to look something like this, nice and quiet. But the reality is that it'll look much more like this, super crowded and congested. If you've ever been on one of these before, you know that there's barely any room to move, let alone sit, which makes it the perfect setting for us to analyze a crime like assault. Now, there are lots of things that can constitute assault under the criminal code, such as making verbal threats or threatening gestures. The one that we're going to focus on today is Section 265(1)(a), which says that a person commits an assault when, without the consent of another person, they apply force intentionally to that other person directly or indirectly. But wait, what does this have to do with all that Actus Reus and mens rea stuff we looked at in the last video? Great question. Let's break down this section for a closer look. Remember what we discussed last time. For something to be a crime, it has to have these two elements. Actus Reus, which is that guilty act, and a mens rea, which is a guilty thought to go along with that action. Now take a look at the section that we just read on assault. Do you see the guilty action? Yes. You're right. It's applying force to someone without their consent. What about the guilty thought? Right again. The guilty thought here is the intention to apply force. So basically that means that if you don't apply force, or maybe you did but didn't intend to, then the elements of the crime of assault haven't been met. So no crime. Alright, let's begin. We're going to pretend that our trip begins right here at the Finch subway station. With a slightly cooler train, that is. Scenario number 1. You get on the train, and as it's moving, you start walking towards an empty seat. You're about to walk by another passenger when, suddenly, the train makes a sharp turn around a bend. You lose your balance and fall on another passenger, who then falls to the floor. So what exactly happened? Was this assault? Remember that for this to be assault, there has to be an application of force to another passenger without their consent and an intention to apply that force. Go ahead and take a few seconds to think about it. If you need more time, you can always pause the video and take all the time you need. In fact, feel free to discuss it with a partner or a group. Ready? Here's the deal. You did apply force to the other passenger, and they definitely didn't consent to being thrown down. But it was a total accident, which means that there was no intention to touch that person. There's no guilty mind, which means there's no assault. Now let's try that exact same analysis with scenario number 2. You're walking towards an empty seat when you notice two guys talking out loud and making really sexist jokes. As you walk by them, you can't help but think about punching one of them right in the face. What do you think? Was this an assault? Remember, pause if you need to. Ready? The answer is that even though you can argue there was an intention to punch this person in the face, you didn't actually do it. There was no application of force to anyone, so there was no assault. And good for you, because violence is never the answer. Scenario number 3. You're walking towards an empty seat when you spot your ex flirting with the same girl from his work that he swore he didn't like. You're furious with him. You sit down, and as he says goodbye and walks past you to get off the train, you purposely extend your foot and trip him, causing him to fall on his face. What do you think? Was this a crime? Well, let's see. Did we have an application of force? Well, we sure did. Your foot applied force to his foot, causing him to fall. Was there intention? Well, you were pretty mad and you did it on purpose, so I would say so. Because both of those elements are present, you guessed it, this was a crime and the definition of assault has been met. Great job on those scenarios, everyone. Now that you understand what the elements of a crime are, know how to ask the right questions to break down a given crime, can apply your knowledge to a specific scenario, and can communicate your answers using the right legal terminology, you're ready to create your own unique scenarios. They can be on the bus or subway like mine, or maybe even a park or anywhere else you like. They can even be with a different crime altogether. Think about what kinds of questions still linger in your mind after this video. That might be a great place to start in coming up with a really cool scenario. When you're done, you can exchange them with a partner and see what they think about whether there was or wasn't a crime. Just remember to follow the same steps we did when you're analyzing your partner's scenario. Read the wording of the crime carefully like we did with assault. Then break it down into actus reus and mens rea. And finally, see if each of the components is present in the scenario that your partner created. Thanks for tuning in, everyone! For more law and education videos, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Until next time, stay curious and question on.